Hello everyone, I'm Justin for CG Tuts Plus, and today we're going to create an MTV style piece where we use a lot of different techniques within Maya and After Effects, and hopefully we should end up with something like this. Okay, so first in this tutorial we're going to use the After Effects convert to keyframe keyframe option that we got and use that information to drive the floor here, the animation of the floor to the music, and we do that by installing a plugin called Stylised, a very cool plugin. Then we're going to, of course, model the speaker, the floor. We're going to add some textures to the floor and a simple lighting setup, and we're going to look at some rendering options to be able to create this depth of field effect that you see here with the focus point close to the camera, and then we're going to import it all into After Effects and add some of these extra effects here, and hopefully we'll end up with something very similar to this one. So let's get started. Okay, so let's first open Maya. So just to keep things organized, I like to create a new project just to get all the files in the right place. So let's call this speaker project and use default and accept. And when it comes to the audio, usually I like to work with the WAV file, since that is a bit more stable when it comes to After Effects and importing into Maya. So to easily export a WAV file, if you got iTunes, you can go to Edit, Preferences, and Import Settings here in the General, and then import using WAV Encoder. And then what you can do is right-click your file name and then create a WAV version. So now you can see it's working on that. There, it's done. And let's see in music, iTunes music, and music again. And we're using Justice Cross, and then you see you have the WAV version there. So I'll copy that and I'll put that into our project and speaker project, and I'll put that in the sound directory. Alright, so now we have a WAV sound to work with. Good to go. Alright, so now that we got our WAV file in place, let's go into After Effects. And let's start by creating a new composition. Let's make it 100 times 100. We don't need it to be big. And let's create it, make sure it's 24 frames a second or 25, whatever you make. Just keep in mind that you have to use the same frame rate in After Effects and Maya, otherwise it will be strange. And I'll make it 550 frames long. So now let's import the audio sound. That is the right directory, speaker project sound, yes. And let's drag that into our composition. Now we have our sound. Now what can we do with this? Yeah, we can create a new solid. Let's create a black solid. And let's duplicate that and go into solid settings and make this white. Now to get some information out of this sound, we'll right click on the file and keyframe assistant, convert audio to keyframes. Now you see this new layer here that it created. If you hit U, you'll see that it's created all these keyframes, and it outputs a number which actually goes with the music. So a high number means like a lot of sound, a low number means less sound. And what we can do is use this to drive the opacity of our white solid. So if I hit T, we'll get the opacity, and if I alt click the stopwatch, you'll get the pick whip. And if you drag this onto the slider of both channels, you'll see that this opacity is updated with the slider of the audio amplitude. So now if we look at a preview of this, you see that the opacity actually changes with the music. So when it's a lot of sound, it gets less opaque, and when it's quiet, it's black. So great, just what we need. So now that we got this in After Effects, let's try and export it to something we can use in Maya. So go into Composition and Make Movie, and then let's go into Maya, Project, Speaker Project, and I'll put it in the data folder. You can choose whichever folder you want, and I'll make a new folder and I'll call it Audio Data. Hit enter and go in there, and we'll save it in that folder. And now, as you can see, the output, default output is an AVI. Now we don't want that, so go into an output module and say change the format to a tiff sequence. That is something that Maya can read. So when you do that, you have to remember one more thing, and that is to open this and see how the naming convention here is a file name, underscore, number, and extension. I think Maya will have problems reading this, so let's instead change it to audio data dot number dot extension, and that is something that Maya will be able to read. So save that, and then that should be ready. So hit render, and it should render this quite quickly because it's a pretty small square we got there. And once this is done rendering, we'll open Maya and we'll see how we can use this with the plugin to create some hopefully some pretty cool effects. Alright, now that we are in Maya, let's just make sure that we're in the right project. We can test the image sequence that we just created by opening, let's see, the hypershade. It's a bit hard to see it here. There we go. Just split screen, and I'll actually create a file texture. So with that file, let's open and let's go into the data, audio data, and our image sequence is there, and let's click use image sequence. Now we can test this by changing the timeline here and see. Let's change it to 550 like the other one, and then you can see that it is actually changing here. It's updating. So now we know that that actually works. So to utilize this, a very nice plugin we can use is called Stylised. So to download that, let's go to an internet page called Creative Crash. It used to be high-end 3D, but I guess they thought that didn't sound cool enough, so now it's Creative Crash. And let's go to choose software, Maya, and do a search for Stylised. Let's see, Stylised. Alright, and here we go, Stylised. It's an awesome plugin, and this guy must be a genius. But anyway, what it does is that it is a displacement plugin, which gives you instant feedback in the viewport on the displacement, and you use a file texture to actually drive it. So that's perfect. So you download that and you install the plugin in the plugin directory, and of course the scripts in the script directory. And then what you do is go to plugin manager and Stylised and load that. So let's see how we can use this Stylised. Alright, so we got our Stylised installed, and we've got our image sequence in Maya. Now let's see how this Stylised works. Let's first start with making a simple plane, and let's also import the sound, which should be in the speaker project sound. Just drag it into the timeline, and you should be fine. So to use this file texture, let's go into our animation menu, create deformers, create Stylised, and then you see this little icon here, the blue one that comes up, that is the Stylised node. So you can choose that and go over to Stylised, and it's in the shape node as well. You see here, it's in Stylised. So this color here is actually the displacement values. So if we try and load the file texture into our color, you can see that now our plane is actually moving to the music because the displacement is driving it. So that's pretty cool. Now let's see what else we can do to create something even more interesting with the Stylised node. Alright, so first of all, let's increase the resolution of our plane here. To do that, go into the channel box and find the polyplane node and increase it to something like 40 by 40. Alright, so now nothing new is going to happen to it because we need to get a different texture to actually drive the displacement to make it a bit more interesting. So let's try with the bulge texture. Now let's go into the Stylised again, Control A, changes from the attribute editor to the channel box, and middle mouse drag the bulge into the color, and now you see you get this instant feedback here on the displacement, and you can go in and change the strength of this in the color balance, or you can even go into the Stylised node itself and choose how much it should be influenced by it. And so this is great. It's really great. Now to get some more interesting shapes like the one I used, let's increase the repeat this texture, like let's say 20 by 20. Now we get all these spikes coming right up, and just to see it a bit clearer, I'm just gonna go and choose it, normal and harden edge, just to get these really hard edges on these spikes. Alright, so now you can go into the color gain and change it like that, or you can middle mouse drag the file, the image sequence that we have, and put that into the color gain. And what does that do? It will makes the spikes move to the music. Well, the screencast probably won't update like fast enough for you to get instant feedback, but it works. So alright, now we can see how to make this a bit more interesting, because right now it's all flat. So how can we do that? Well, let's first of all open our hypershade and let's create noise texture. Now let's try and plug the noise texture into the displacement decolor, and we got this crazy noise. See how cool that plugin is? You get like, you can do all this stuff with it, and it's like instant feedback. Anyways, that's not what we're here to do. Now let's try and create a layered texture, and let's put the bulge texture in there, which has the animation on it, and let's put the noise in there too. So let's put the noise on top of the bulge, and let's put the layered texture into the displaced node. So okay, now we have layered texture, and then instead of over on the noise, let's do multiply. Okay, so now we can go into the noise and let's play around with this a bit. Amplitude, see how it's like in Photoshop. It's over, so you know it's multiplying with a, get a mix of the spikes and the noise. So now you see we get a bit of a different kind of pattern here. You can make it even more. Alright, so that's pretty cool. Now let's see what we can do with to make like a, you want to keep the middle section here clear, because that's where we're going to put our speaker. So to do that, make a ramp texture. Oh, we're getting a lot of textures here now, but bear with me. So let's put the ramp texture. Let's choose the red color, and let's add the layered texture into the ramp, and get rid of the green and make the blue, let's see, let's make that black. Alright, so now let's take the ramp and put that into the displaced. And now what you see is that we have a bit more control. We can drag this down, and you see that it only affects that part of it, and then you can add some, you know. Alright, so that's cool. Now if you do this, and then we'll choose the torsion ramp, I think that was it, yep. And then we can choose, we can make this a bit closer. I'm just dragging the ramp here now. So alright, we got this. So now we got some interesting stuff going on, and we got space in the middle where we can put the speaker. So let's do that next. Alright, well, I'm not too happy about the way this moves, because I want it to like really explode a bit more when it takes off here. So let's try and just like go down a bit with this, and then ratio, frequency ratio. Yeah, alright, well, we'll just have to leave it at that for now. We can actually, I just want to really explode it here. What we can do to do that is actually cheat a little bit. We can do, say that the strength up to this point is like 0.5 maybe, 0.3. And then right click on the strength and set key, and then as we come in here we can set it to 1 and set another key, so that now it should really kick gas. Alright, so I got this little motion in the beginning. It really kicks in there. So now we can start thinking about creating the speaker, and we'll make it pretty easy. Just make a cube and make it a bit longer, and as you know, when you push 3, you get this subdivided version, which is pretty cool. So let's do that. Let's start subdividing it a bit. Let's make this full screen, just to get some interesting like edges and highlights on the speaker itself. What you do is, I've made a shortcut for this. It's very good if you're in the polygons menu, and then edit mesh, and if you hold in Control Shift and insert edge loop tool, you get this. It automatically puts the tool into the shelf. So by doing that, you can easily access this awesome tool, which is just cut the edge loop around. So we'll just cut it close to the edges here. Let's see, and then 3. You can see how that looks. Okay, so we'll probably need to add it to like all the edges here. Alright, so now we got a good little box going here, so that can be the base. Alright, so now that we got our little cube here, I'm just gonna make a sphere to use that as a, just to make sure that we make like a round hole. Make that 8 subdivisions, and go to the front view, and I'll rotate that 90 degrees and scale it down a bit. And what's this? Is a pyramid. I don't know how that came in, but I'll scale it down, and I'll put it into a layer and make it a template. And then I'm gonna, actually before I make it a template, I'm gonna move it out, just so that we can get the right position and the front view, and then we'll make it a template. And there may be an easier way to do this, but you know, it works. So I'm gonna subdivide this box here in about the right areas where the okay, so, and then we'll take the vertices here, and I'll just quickly move them to where the sphere alright, so we got that. Beautiful, just beautiful. And then we got our faces. Oops, actually we forgot this one. That one is, sorry about that. This one is going out like that. Perfect. And our faces, and then we'll, let's see, extrude, and then let's extrude in a bit. And now I'm going to go to the perspective view, and I'm going to put G and do that again. Actually, no, it didn't want to. Let's push extrude again. Move it in a bit. G. And move it in a bit and scale it down. And G. And move it in a bit and scale it down. Alright, let's see, 3. Alright, so we got a hole there. And then, just to make it a little bit more interesting, we'll extrude this a little bit. How does that look in the... actually, yeah, we'll do this, and then we'll create an edge loop just to get this really hard edge around the center there. So now we have a hole in the speaker, and it should be should be fairly round too. So let's move on to creating the rest of the speaker. Oh, and by the way, before I forget, you should of course remember to save every now and then. I'm a bit lazy when it comes to saving sometimes, and then it crashes, and then you really regret it. But anyways, let's make the other part of the speaker. Let's just move this up and make it smaller and put it, yeah, how about there maybe. Alright, and then we'll just do the same thing from the front, make it a template again, and to choose the edge loop. Now you see that the edge loop is a bit funny because of the way we did the edge loop here is trying to follow it, but it doesn't really matter. Alright, so let's choose these now, and one more pass through there, and then we'll do the same thing with this, just move them into position. And I'm not really that accurate with the positions, but just like get them in about the right ones. So alright, we got that, and move that one in the middle, and we can see it's kind of all over the place in the back here, so you know, you could try and fix that, but it shouldn't matter. Like the overall shape is gonna be the same at the back, so it doesn't really matter. You can live with that. So let's select these faces, and let's scale that down a bit, and hit G and in, and G and in, and scale down, and maybe one more, scale down a bit down. Okay, and then we'll create, if you select one face and double click, shift double click the next one, you select the whole loop. Very handy too. And move that out a bit, and then we'll make the same edge loop there. So now what we should have is a speaker with two holes in them. Alright, so because I know that I want to use a different material for these elements inside here than the rest of the speaker, I'm gonna detach these two elements from the actual rest of the speaker. So I'll do that by going to the side view, hit 4 for wireframe and faces, and I'll select these faces, deselect these, go to perspective, hit 5, and deselect these four here, so I only have the middle selected, and then I'll go into mesh and extract, and now if I hit F8 I should have two different elements, so that is perfect. And if you hit 3 you can see that they fit perfectly, so it shouldn't matter much. And then I'll go ahead and I'll do exactly the same thing for the top one. So let's see here, like that, and 5, deselect, 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 and like that, and mesh extract. Alright, so now we've got 3 elements for this speaker, and we should be done soon. So the last thing we're going to do is add a sphere, the middle element in the speaker. So let's rotate that 90 degrees, and then we can look at it from the front and 4, and just make sure that it's in the middle. and then I'm gonna go into side view, and I'm gonna select the sphere, and actually I'm gonna go into the creation node, and I'm gonna take down the subdivisions a bit, and then I'll delete these faces, and let's see, and I'll scale it down a bit this way and down, move it in, and let's see how that looks. Perspective, and alright, that looks like we can use that one, and then just duplicate that and move it into the right. Let's see, front and 4, and let's about there, and scale it down, and perspective 5, and like that. Alright, so now we got our speaker more or less done, and now let's see how we can add some animation to this one too.